Rallying isn't for the faint of heart. It is for the brave. Those who embrace the unpredictable, master control, and face each turn with unflinching precision. And if you think that sounds like you, then boy do I have something in store for you. Lately, I have found myself playing Richard Burns Rally and BeamNG as opposed to EAWRC. Don't get me wrong, EAWRC has its merits, but I was craving something more. I still play it, manage a clean run, and get a good rank, but it just does not give me the same thrill anymore. I wanted something else, a deeper struggle, more consequence for every mistake. RBR delivers that feeling. There's something about the relentless struggle with a simple track and the way it unapologetically mocks my confidence in handling a 300 horsepower car in adverse weather conditions. Same goes for BeamNG. It's easy to dismiss it as just a sandbox focused on crashes, but there's more to it than meets the eye. The urge to push the pedal to the metal and letting all hell loose is very tempting, but the strict damage model forces you to be mindful of every input. It's not just about going fast, it's about survival. I hope it's all making sense, and perhaps I've grown a bit masochistic over time, but I cannot get enough of it. Now, just to be clear, I'm not saying that more difficulty equals more realism. That's not the point. Going back to EAWRC feels a bit unnatural, as you can abuse the track and car to no extent. Pair that with the forgiving damage scale and the immersion starts to falter. It's understandable though, as it's a mass market game. Since the developers aim to appeal to a broader audience, they cannot make the game overly hardcore, or they risk losing players who simply want to have fun. Not everyone is looking for the most intense simulation experience, you know? But for those who are looking for that, let's talk about BeamNG. If you haven't experienced rallying in this game, I highly recommend that you give it a try. As a rally enthusiast, I have played my fair share of games. But to my surprise, the skills I have developed after countless hours of rallying in this game are transferable to Richard Burns Rally. The same, however, cannot be said for other rally titles. Aside from the tire model and the varying traction based on surface, elevation, weather, and the car I'm driving, it never felt like I'm coming from a different game, which, in my opinion, says a lot about BeamNG. Despite the lack of few factors including but not limited to weather conditions, tire model, and surface variations, the overall experience remains largely unaffected. What it lacks in variety, it more than makes up with its physics and damage model, which arguably are two of the most crucial elements in a hardcore rally simulator. Other rally titles are a bit forgiving when it comes to damage and input, but BeamNG slaps you in the face and forces you to think twice before doing anything irrational that you might have picked up from other rally games. I kid you not, this game taught me better throttle and brake input than any other game. I learned to play with the weight of the car while also being able to predict its movement, which, by the way, is also one-to-one replicable in Richard Burns Rally. Every slide, every jump, and every oversteer is one wrong input away from turning your car into a worthless piece of metal. Considering this is merely a sandbox and not a full-fledged rally sim, it has its own quirks. The tire model isn't perfect, co-driver mod is a hit or miss, and sometimes it's hard to feel the weight of the car, but it is still more than capable to go head-to-head with Richard Burns Rally. But we'll talk about that in a bit. I always thought of BeamNG as a simulator with top-of-the-line soft body physics and satisfying crashes, but never in my wildest dreams did I think of it as a tool to sharpen my skills. In my early days, I genuinely believed Dirt Rally 2.0 was the pinnacle of hardcore rally sims. Since I was doing pretty good, I decided to give BeamNG a try. But it was an instant turn-off as my skills from Dirt Rally 2.0 felt quite useless. Like many others, I started to believe that more difficulty does not equate to more realism. But after giving BeamNG a proper chance, my perspective shifted. I began to see that Dirt Rally 2.0 wasn't the hardcore sim I once thought. That said, I still enjoy it. It's undeniably fun. But lately, the lack of realism has started to bother me. In BeamNG, every decision carries weight. Shift down a bit too early, you risk damaging your engine. Release the clutch prematurely, you're jeopardizing your synchronizer. Floor the throttle too much and your car quickly becomes part of the scenery. I hope you see my point. I once again urge you to give rallying a try in this game. For co-driver mod, there's AI pace notes to create your own tracks and pace notes in whichever map you like. If you find that too much work, then I suggest trying out Smart Co-Driver mod, which does not require the pace note score anymore. Both are really good mods and definitely worth a try. But just in case you don't want to try either of them, then update 0.34 brought in a lot of fresh changes, and this rally mode is one of them. Although it is still in the experimental stage, it highlights just how far the game can go. As of now, the pace notes are highlighted on the screen and there is no dedicated co-driver voice. Rally enthusiasts can find it a bit jarring to drive without proper instructions.
Fast, sharp right! Fast, sharp right!
This leaves players with two options, either to memorize the stage and try to get the best possible time, or to learn to see the pace notes while you drive. Since it is an experimental stage, judging it would be kind of pointless for now. We'll revisit it once it evolves further. Now let's see how well BeamNG fares against the GOAT of rally sims. And as much as I'd like to pit these two against each other, it won't be an apples to apples comparison. RBR has earned its legendary status as the GOAT of rally sims. And there is a reason for that. It's incredibly detailed and offers unmatched levels of precision. Every car feels distinct, behaving according to a multitude of factors such as car's weight, weight distribution, tire model, suspension geometry, aerodynamics, power delivery, etc. etc. RSF's dedication is truly commendable. With relentless updates, there's always new stages, updated designs, plugins, co-driver voice mods, the list goes on. Just recently, they updated the Rally 2 cars to 2023 and 2024 spec, and it is just awesome. Also, working gauges. It is a big deal when you factor in RBR's age and the hard work from the modding community. There's even talk of a new online server, something which RBR desperately needs considering its outdated system. But the big question is, does BeamNG deserve a seat at the hardcore rally sim table? Yes, it absolutely does. Here's the thing, despite RBR being the gold standard, BeamNG isn't as far behind as you might think. Yeah, RBR shines in terms of sheer accuracy, but BeamNG brings its own set of strengths and accuracy level to the table which are genuinely comparable and very hard to overlook. Both titles excel where it counts the most, physics and immersion. Both of them bring a unique level of unpredictability and emotion that is very hard to replicate. BeamNG may not have RBR's perfect tire model or the same level of control over things like surface traction and weather conditions, but it has a different kind of depth that is just as engaging. If you are new, you won't always be able to predict how the car behaves, and that is what makes it so exciting. Every mistake feels more personal, and I don't have to tell you about the damage model. A random YouTube shot with annoying AI voice and a giant hammer might have told you better. Like I said earlier, it's very easy to dismiss it as just a fun little sandbox where you get the freedom to do anything you want and end up watching crashes or doing free roams. But there's so much more to it. Against RBR, it offers a level of chaos that feels more natural, more raw. It would be wrong to say that the physics in BeamNG aren't as refined in terms of pure rally, but they are still grounded enough to make every rally stage feel dangerous and rewarding. It is very hard to simply pick the better one as there are a lot of factors to consider. But both games do a fantastic job of making the consequence of every mistake feel real.
Both is good.
Graphically, RBR does not even stand a chance against BeamNG. It's a 2-decade-old game going up against modern visuals. But let's not kid ourselves. It's not about the eye candy. It's about the feeling. And both games deliver that flawlessly. Now we know that it works incredibly well as a rally game, but in order to experience it to its fullest extent, I recommend unchecking a few boxes such as oversteer and understeer reduction assistance and clutch assistance. Default gearbox mode should be in realistic, and make sure the simplified collision physics should be disabled, just in case it is enabled for some reason. I won't talk about force feedback as it is subjective, so play around to see what sails your boat. I would however recommend you reduce the torque output of the base if possible. I have mine set to a max of 12 Nm as the sudden jolts can be a bit too much sometimes. Now the next step would be to download some mods. For stages, you have a few like BeamNG Rally Desert, PJS Drift and Rally, Rally Forest, Project BeamNG Rally, Sega Rally and many more. As for the cars, I'll leave that up to you. And that's it. Those are all the steps. Now all that's left is to dive into rallying, crash a bunch of times, get frustrated because it's incredibly difficult and go back to EWRC. I'm kidding, of course. But just in case you want to do that, it's completely fine, you know. When it comes to tuning, BeamNG gives you plenty to experiment with. Camber into adjustment, gear ratio, suspension setting, differential tuning and more. I'm not much of a tuning guy myself and usually leave it alone. But I'd be lying if I said I haven't given it a thought. Once I start to wrap my head around it, I'll definitely make a video to share what I have learned. Now both titles are great in their own ways, but there is one aspect where RBR gains a point. Kind of. BeamNG is an excellent simulator, but isn't optimized well. It is a resource-hungry game which will absolutely tank your system. RBR on the other hand, being a 2-decade-old game, can run on practically anything. Ultimately, no matter which title you choose, both deliver rewarding experiences for rally enthusiasts. BeamNG might not dethrone RBR, but it's a force to be reckoned with. It offers something unique that no other game does. And after hours of playing rally sims, I truly believe that the only worthy alternative to RBR is BeamNG Drive. Rallying has taught me more than just how to handle a car. It has taught me patience, precision, and how to embrace failure. BeamNG in particular reminds me of this every time I hit restart after turning my car into scrap metal. But that is what makes it so rewarding. It's a game that doesn't just test your skills, it builds them. And honestly, isn't that what rallying is about? That's been it. I've been Darth Snape, and may the downforce be with you.